Mia stood at the edge of the marina with the early morning air pressing cool against her face, and she kept her eyes on the old boat like it could answer questions she was afraid to ask. The water moved in slow folds below, soft and steady, while the boat sat crooked in its slip with tired paint and a body full of small cracks. Most people passed it like it was nothing, but Mia did not look away. She leaned closer and read the faint name on the side. She could barely make it out, yet it felt like a whisper meant only for her, the kind of whisper that says keep going even when you are empty. She had been running on stubborn hope for months. First the bills came, then the slow loss of customers, then the final day when she locked her tiny repair shop and realized the street looked the same even though her life had changed. She did not tell many people. She just carried boxes to a small room and counted what she had left. $1,000 in an envelope, saved for something important, but everything was important now. Food was important, rent was important, even the cost of waking up and trying again felt heavy. She told herself she needed one good decision, one that could open a door instead of closing another. The marina owner, a tired man with sun lines on his face, noticed her staring and walked over with a look that was half curious and half careful. He said the boat had been sitting there too long. Nobody wanted it. Nobody trusted it. The paperwork was simple, and the price was exactly $1,000. Mia heard the number and felt her stomach tighten. It was the last of her money, the last piece of safety she could hold in her hand. Yet when she stepped onto the dock and touched the boat's rough rail, she felt something steady inside her. She was not choosing a toy, she was choosing a chance, and she could not explain it, but the boat felt like a chance that was still breathing. She signed the papers with a pen that shook slightly between her fingers, and the marina owner told her she had 30 days to fix it or move it. He did not say it like a threat, more like a rule the world had already written. Mia nodded and kept her voice calm. Then she went home and spread out her tools. She made a list on a torn notebook page: sandpaper, sealant, primer, paint, new rope, used parts where she could find them. She set the envelope on the table and counted the bills again. She promised herself she would spend each note with purpose. No waste, no guessing, no panic. The next morning she arrived before sunrise. She brought a small radio that barely worked and a bottle of water and a bag of bread. She climbed into the boat and breathed in the smell of old wood and salt and dust. Then she began with the simplest job: cleaning. She wiped every surface until her arms felt warm. She scraped away loose paint. She swept out corners that held years of forgotten dirt. When her hands started to sting, she switched tasks. When her back complained, she stood and stretched. She worked the way she had worked in her shop, slow and honest, doing the small steps that make the big change possible. Over the next days, the boat began to shift from a problem into a project. Mia learned its shape like a map. She found weak spots and marked them. She tapped the hull gently and listened for the dull sound of trouble. She patched cracks with careful hands. She sanded until the air filled with pale dust and her hair caught it like powder. She watched short repair videos at night and took notes in simple words. She searched for affordable parts and asked questions without shame. Some people ignored her. Some laughed softly. But one older worker pointed her toward a salvage yard and told her which days the owner was in a good mood. Mia thanked him and held the advice like gold. On the 6th day she opened the engine cover and felt her confidence wobble. The parts looked tired and the wires were a messy nest. She could repair a lot, but engines had their own language. Still she did not quit. She cleaned each piece, she checked connections, she replaced what she could afford. She chose patience instead of fear. At midday she took a break on the dock and watched birds skim the water. She told herself she only needed the engine to run well enough for a simple test. She did not need perfection, she needed progress. Then she heard footsteps behind her and turned to see an older man standing a short distance away. He was not dressed like a tourist. His jacket was plain and his shoes looked worn. He leaned slightly on a cane, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He did not stare at Mia the way curious people often did. He looked at the boat like he recognized it, like it belonged to a story he had not told anyone. Mia nodded politely and went back to her tools. She expected him to move on, but he stayed, quiet and still, watching the way her hands moved, watching the slow work. He did not interrupt. He did not offer advice. He simply stood there as the sunlight climbed higher and the marina grew louder. Mia tried to ignore him, yet she felt his presence like a question. She told herself it was a public place and he was not doing anything wrong. Still it made her uneasy, not because she feared him, but because she feared what his attention might mean. People did not watch broken things for no reason. She worked faster. She tightened a bolt too hard and scraped her knuckle. She pressed her lips together and kept going. The man shifted his weight. then gave a small nod as if he understood the moment, and finally he walked away without speaking, leaving Mia with the sound of water and the strange feeling that the boat had just been recognized by someone who mattered. That night Mia lay awake in her small room with her notebook open on her chest. She read her own list of tasks and tried to plan tomorrow, but her mind kept returning to the man's eyes, not friendly, not cold, just full of something held back. She wondered if he was connected to the boat, if he had owned it, if he had lost it. She pushed the thought away because she could not afford distractions. The boat was her plan now. Her last $1,000 had become wood and paint and a promise. She pictured the boat floating clean and strong. She pictured herself guiding it out into open water, earning money with honest work, paying rent without panic, eating without counting every bite. In the days that followed she noticed him again, always at a distance, always quiet. He appeared in the late morning when the sun warmed the dock. Sometimes he stood near a post and looked out over the water. Sometimes he watched Mia sanding the hull, and sometimes he was simply there like a shadow that did not want to be seen. Mia told herself she would ask him who he was if he came close, but he never did, and she did not want to chase someone who preferred silence. Instead she kept working. She painted the hull with careful strokes, she replaced frayed rope, she fixed a loose rail, she rubbed fresh varnish into the wood until it shone softly. On the 14th day, Mia stepped back and saw the boat looking less like a wreck and more like a craft with a future. The color was clean, the edges were sharper, the small cabin smelled of fresh wood instead of dust. She felt a rare warmth in her chest, not victory yet, but the start of it. She climbed aboard and sat for a moment, letting her hands rest. She looked at the water and listened to the marina sounds. Then she heard the engine area make a small clicking sound that pulled her back to reality. The engine still needed to run. Paint could not carry her, hope could not carry her, only a working motor could. She opened the cover again and took a deep breath. She checked the fuel line, she checked the battery, she checked the starter. She tried to stay calm, but her hands shook. She turned the key and the engine coughed once, then fell silent. She tried again, same result. She felt a tight pressure behind her eyes, the kind that comes right before tears. She sat down on the deck and pressed her palms against her jeans, trying not to break in front of strangers. She told herself she could solve it. She had solved harder problems before. Yet the fear returned, the fear that the last $1,000 had bought her a beautiful mistake. Then the older man appeared again, closer this time, still quiet, still steady. He stopped near the edge of the dock and looked at the engine cover. Mia glanced up, ready to speak, ready to ask him why he kept coming back. But before she could say a word he lifted his chin slightly and gave a calm, simple look, as if he was waiting for her to decide whether to accept help or keep fighting alone. And in that moment Mia felt something shift inside her, not surrender, but the understanding that sometimes a second pair of eyes could save a person's last chance, and she finally realized the boat was not the only thing being restored. Her trust was being tested too. Quietly, one day at a time, Mia stood beside the open engine space with the morning light warming the wood beneath her feet. Her hands moved slowly now, not from fear, but from careful thought, as she studied every wire and pipe. The old man remained nearby, silent, but close enough that she could feel his attention without turning. She reminded herself that asking for help did not mean failure, it meant choosing progress over pride. The water shifted gently below the dock, as if waiting for her decision to be made. Her breath slowed and her shoulders relaxed just enough for her to speak without tension. She asked if he really knew this kind of engine and waited for his answer. The man nodded once with quiet certainty and stepped closer without rushing her. Sam did not touch anything at first. He only looked and listened as if the boat was speaking to him. He asked Mia what she had already checked, and she told him everything in simple, honest words. He listened carefully, never interrupting, never judging the small mistakes she admitted. When he finally reached inside, he moved with respect, like the engine mattered to him. He adjusted a connection and asked her to turn the key while he watched closely. The engine responded with a stronger sound than before, and Mia felt hope rise in her chest. It did not fully start, but it was enough to prove the problem could be solved. Sam leaned back and said it would run soon if she stayed patient and steady. They worked together through the late morning, sharing quiet space more than conversation. Mia noticed how Sam wiped his hands and tools with care, like habits formed long ago. He told her he once fixed boats by the water before life pulled him in another direction. He did not explain further, and Mia did not ask, because some stories need time. As they worked, people passed and glanced at them with brief interest, then moved on. The marina noise faded into the background, replaced by focus and calm. Mia realized she was learning more than repairs, she was learning to trust again. The boat felt less heavy now, like it was slowly forgiving both of them. By afternoon the engine finally ran smooth and steady, filling the space with clean sound. Mia laughed softly, surprised by the joy that escaped her without warning. Sam watched with a small smile that carried relief more than pride. He told her she had done most of the work and that mattered more than the fix. Mia wiped her face and thanked him with sincerity that came from deep inside. She offered him water and bread, and they sat on the dock, resting quietly. The sun reflected on the water, painting light across the side of the boat. For the first time in weeks, Mia felt like tomorrow might welcome her. As the day cooled, Sam prepared to leave, moving slower now, but lighter somehow. He told Mia he would return if she wanted more help, and she nodded quickly. She watched him walk away, feeling that his presence had changed something important. The boat rested calmly behind her, no longer silent, but ready. Mia packed her tools and stood for a long moment looking at the horizon. She thought about how close she had come to giving up before asking one question. That night she went home tired but steady, carrying quiet confidence with her. The second chance she had bought was beginning to grow roots, and she was ready to protect it. Mia arrived at the marina before sunrise again, carrying a calm strength she did not have before. The air felt softer and the water moved with a slow, welcoming rhythm beside the dock. She stepped onto the boat and ran her hand along the smooth rail, feeling proud and careful. The engine rested quietly now, no longer a threat, but a promise waiting to be tested. She thought about Sam and the way he worked without hurry or noise. His presence had stayed with her even after he left the day before. It felt like the boat was no longer hers alone, but part of a shared effort. That thought did not scare her, it steadied her. She spent the morning checking every detail with patience and focus. Each rope was tightened and each surface cleaned again. She spoke softly to herself as she worked, not out of fear but comfort. The boat responded with quiet strength, like it understood her care. Other workers passed by and nodded, noticing the change in the boat and in her. Some stopped to watch and asked simple questions which she answered kindly. Mia realized she was no longer hiding from the world. She was standing in it again. As the sun climbed higher, Sam returned just as quietly as before. He carried no tools, only his calm presence and watchful eyes. Mia greeted him with a warm smile that surprised even her. They talked about small things, the weather, the tide, the sound of birds. Then Sam asked if she was ready to test the boat on water. Her chest tightened with both excitement and fear. She nodded because waiting would not make her stronger. Together they prepared for the first slow movement. Mia untied the ropes with careful hands, feeling the weight of the moment. Sam stood near the edge, steady and focused, watching every detail. She stepped into the cabin and placed her hand on the controls. Her breath slowed as she remembered every lesson, every mistake, every late night. She turned the key and the engine responded, clean and smooth. The sound filled the space and echoed softly across the water. Mia felt tears rise, but she kept her focus forward. The boat eased away from the dock like it had been waiting for her touch. They moved slowly across the calm marina water, testing balance and response. Mia kept her eyes on the path ahead while Sam watched the engine and hull. Every small movement felt important, every sound meaningful. The boat did not fight them, it moved with steady grace. Mia felt something unlock inside her chest, a release she did not expect. She was no longer fixing the past, she was moving into the present. Sam nodded quietly, satisfied, but careful not to celebrate too soon. They circled back toward the dock with shared relief. When the boat returned safely, Mia laughed openly without holding back. Her laughter carried across the water, light and free. Sam smiled wider this time and placed a steady hand on the rail. He told her she had brought the boat back to life. Mia shook her head and said the boat had done the same for her. They shared a quiet moment standing side by side. The marina felt different now, warmer, more alive. Even the water seemed brighter under the sun. The test was over, but the journey was just beginning. Later that afternoon, Mia noticed people watching her with new interest. Some asked about future rides, others about repairs and small jobs. She answered honestly, saying she was still starting small. Sam stood nearby listening without stepping into the spotlight. Mia realized he preferred it that way, present but unseen. She wondered about his past but did not push the question. Some truths reveal themselves when they are ready. For now his help was enough. As evening approached, Sam prepared to leave once again. He looked at the boat with a thoughtful expression full of memory. Mia thanked him again and told him he was welcome any time. He nodded and said he might take her up on that. Before walking away, he paused and looked back at her. He said, "Some boats carry more than people, they carry history." Mia felt the weight of those words settle gently. She watched him disappear down the dock. That night Mia sat alone on the boat as the sky darkened slowly. The lights from the marina reflected softly on the water. She thought about the risk she had taken with her last money. It no longer felt like a gamble but a choice guided by instinct. The boat rested calmly beneath her, steady and strong. She felt tired but peaceful in a way she had not felt in years. Whatever came next, she knew she could face it. The water whispered softly beside her, and she listened. In the quiet hours, Mia made plans, not big dreams but honest ones. She would offer small trips, repairs, and simple work. She would rebuild her life the same way she rebuilt the boat. Slow, careful, and with respect for every part. She understood now that restoration was not just fixing damage. It was listening, learning, and allowing help when needed. The boat had taught her that, and so had Sam. Part 3 ended not with answers but with steady hope. Mia woke before the sun again, feeling a quiet pull toward the marina. The boat had become part of her daily breath, and she walked faster as she neared the dock. Morning light touched the water and reflected softly against the hull she had restored. She stepped aboard and felt the calm strength beneath her feet, steady and real. For the first time she was not fixing or testing, she was simply being present. The silence felt earned, like a reward for patience and effort. She sat and listened to the water and allowed her thoughts to slow. Sam arrived later than usual, moving carefully with his cane. He paused at the edge of the dock and looked at Mia with a thoughtful gaze. There was something different in his posture, like a weight had shifted. He joined her without speaking and stood beside the boat quietly. Mia sensed that today carried something unspoken, heavy but gentle. She waited, allowing space instead of filling it with questions. The air between them felt full of memory and choice. They walked along the dock together, moving at Sam's pace. He spoke slowly, telling her how the water once felt like home to him. He said there were years when he avoided places like this. The sound of waves had reminded him of things he was not ready to face. Mia listened closely, never interrupting or judging his pauses. She understood that silence could hold meaning without explanation. The boat remained behind them like a witness to the moment. Sam stopped and placed his hand on the rail of the boat. He told her it had belonged to someone he loved deeply. They had planned a life near the water, simple and honest. But loss had changed his direction and left things unfinished. He admitted that seeing Mia restore the boat had stirred something painful and healing. It reminded him that care could return purpose to forgotten things. Mia felt honored by the trust he placed in her. He reached into his jacket and held a worn envelope. Inside were papers, old but carefully kept safe. He explained that the boat had never truly left his heart. He had kept ownership because letting go felt like another loss. But watching Mia bring it back to life changed his understanding. He wanted the boat to move forward instead of waiting. The envelope rested heavy with meaning between them. Mia shook her head at first, feeling overwhelmed by his offer. She said she could not take something tied to such deep memory. Sam smiled gently and said the memory deserved motion, not rest. He believed the boat had chosen her through effort and respect. He trusted her to honor its past while giving it a future. Mia felt tears rise but held her voice steady. She accepted not as a gift but as a shared promise. They sat together on the dock for a long time after. Neither rushed the moment or tried to shape it with words. The water continued its steady rhythm beside them. Mia realized that restoration was also about releasing pain. Sam seemed lighter, as if a door had finally closed behind him. The boat waited quietly, ready for its next chapter. Both lives felt connected now through purpose and trust. As evening came, Mia looked at the horizon with calm resolve. She knew challenges would return, but fear no longer ruled her. The boat was no longer a last chance but a beginning. Sam prepared to leave, leaving her with a final nod. They shared understanding without needing to explain more. The marina lights flickered on, reflecting new paths ahead. Part 4 closed with healing carried gently by the tide. Mia stood on the dock as the morning light spread slowly across the water. The boat rested beside her, strong and calm, no longer silent or forgotten. She felt the weight of the past lift as the present settled into place. Her hands moved across the rail with care and respect for what it carried. Each board held effort, memory, and quiet determination shaped by her work. She no longer thought of the $1,000 she had spent. What mattered now was the life she had rebuilt piece by piece. Days passed with steady rhythm and honest labor guiding her forward. Mia began offering simple rides along the coast, nothing fancy, just open water. People came curious at first, then returned for the peace they felt aboard. She listened to their stories as they watched the horizon breathe. The boat carried laughter, quiet thoughts, and moments of calm reflection. Mia felt useful again, not rushed, not afraid, just present. The marina slowly became a place of belonging instead of survival. Sam visited often, sometimes riding with her, sometimes watching from the dock. He seemed lighter now, as if something heavy had been set down at last. He spoke more freely, sharing small memories tied to the water. Mia listened with patience, knowing the value of shared silence. The boat moved steadily beneath them like a bridge between past and future. Sam no longer looked away from the waves when they passed. The water had become a friend again instead of a reminder. Mia noticed how the boat changed people during each ride. Tired faces softened, voices slowed, and shoulders relaxed. The simple motion of water did what words often could not. She realized the boat was not just carrying bodies but easing minds. Her work had created space for healing without trying to name it. She felt proud, not in a loud way but in a grounded way. The kind of pride that grows quietly and lasts. As the season shifted, Mia saved enough to plan small repairs and updates. Nothing rushed, nothing wasted, everything done with intention. She wrote lists, learned from mistakes, and trusted her growing skill. The boat responded with steady strength, never asking for more than care. Sam watched her progress with quiet approval and respect. He no longer felt the need to guide or correct. He trusted the future she was building. One evening, as the sky warmed with color, Mia stood alone on the deck. The marina lights reflected softly across the water like scattered stars. She thought about how close she had come to losing everything. The choice to restore instead of retreat had changed her path. The boat felt like a promise kept, not just to herself but to others. She breathed deeply, feeling steady and whole. The journey that began with nothing had carried her somewhere true.